I came home early. That's how it started. It was a Wednesday, and I had a meeting that got canceled last minute. No big deal. I grabbed some burgers on the way home, thinking I'd surprise Jessica. Maybe have a lazy afternoon, watch some terrible reality TV together like we used to. I wasn't expecting fireworks, just a normal, quiet moment. But when I walked in, the house felt wrong. The air was thick, stale, like a room where someone's been whispering too long. The TV was off. No sounds of Jessica singing off-key in the kitchen. No scent of her overpriced candles burning. Just silence. Then footsteps. Quick, nervous. The kind that don't belong in your own home. "Jess," I called out, stepping into the hallway. The bedroom door was shut. I saw the shadow of her feet under the crack. But there was something else, a second shadow. I felt it before I even knew what I was looking at. A deep, stomach-twisting certainty. My fingers clenched around the takeout bag. Then her voice. High-pitched, forced casual. "Oh, hey, you're home early." The door cracked open just an inch, just enough for her face to appear. Flushed, hair a mess, breathing too fast. I took a step forward. She took a step back. "What's going on?" I asked. My own voice sounded foreign, too calm for what my gut already knew. She laughed, too bright, too fake. "Nothing, just changing. Long day." A bead of sweat rolled down her temple. And that's when I saw it. A belt. A men's belt, flung carelessly on the floor by the bed. Not mine. Jessica followed my gaze and froze. Her throat bobbed in a swallow. For a split second, everything in her expression shifted, from surprise to calculation, like she was running the math in her head, deciding which lie to pick. Then footsteps again, from inside the bedroom, and just like that, the door slammed shut in my face. My own wife, barricading herself in our bedroom, with another man. The moment snapped something inside me. The takeout bag dropped to the floor. Burgers spilling out onto the carpet like the least important thing in the world. I slammed my fist against the door. "Open it. Now." Silence. A long, unbearable silence. Then Jessica's voice, sharper this time. "It's not what you think." Pathetic, ridiculous line. I pressed my forehead against the door, breathing hard. My whole body was shaking. Not just from rage, but from the sheer, surreal absurdity of it all. I wanted to kick the door down, drag that coward out by the collar, make her look me in the eyes. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I did something worse. I stepped back, took out my phone, and started recording, because if she wanted to play games, I was about to change the rules. The door didn't open. Not for a full, excruciating minute. My heart was a war drum in my chest. I could hear Jessica moving inside, whispering to him. My hands curled into fists, and then finally, click. The lock turned. Jessica peeked through the crack again, but I didn't let her control the pace this time. I shoved the door open, and there he was, a man, standing in my bedroom. My bedroom, shirt half-buttoned, hair messy, belt missing, because it was still on the floor where he'd left it. His eyes went wide when he saw me, like some pathetic deer caught in headlights. Jessica jumped between us. "Listen, let's just..." I pointed straight at him. "Get out." He hesitated. I took a step forward. I said, "Get the hell out." That's when he moved. Hands up, stumbling toward the door like some spineless intruder caught mid-crime. And Jessica had the audacity to grab my arm. "Babe, let's talk." Babe. That one word almost did me in. My hands were shaking. My jaw ached from how hard I was clenching it. She turned to the guy. "Ethan, just go, okay?" Ethan. I let the name burn into my brain. The coward muttered something I didn't catch, then bolted down the hallway. I followed, not because I had anything to say to him, but because I needed to see his face. Needed to carve it into my memory. Tall, late 30s. Some generic-looking office guy with a weak chin and a bad haircut. That's it? That's what she risked everything for? The front door slammed behind him. Silence. I turned back to Jessica, who stood frozen in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself like she was the victim here. Like she was the one who'd just had her world ripped apart. I let the silence stretch, let it suffocate her. Then finally I spoke. "Start talking." She hesitated, licking her lips. It's not what it looks like. I let out a slow, humorless laugh. Not what it looks like. Jessica, I just walked in on you hiding another man in our bedroom. She shook her head, eyes wide with fake innocence. It was a mistake. A mistake. I took a step closer. She flinched. Good. Let her feel a fraction of what was boiling inside me. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is being late to work. My voice was low, steady. Dangerous. What you did. That was a choice. Her lip trembled. I didn't mean for this to happen, right? Because you just accidentally tripped and fell onto him? She had nothing. No words. No excuses. Just wide, guilty eyes and a silence thick with all the things she wasn't saying. And that's when I realized she wasn't sorry. Not for what she did. She was only sorry she got caught. I took out my phone. Opened the video I'd recorded of the locked door. The shadows. Her voice. The moment she slammed it in my face. I held it up. Let her see. Let her hear. Her face drained of color. You recorded. I'm done, Jessica. My voice was ice. I'm done being played. Her mouth opened and closed, like a fish gasping for air. But I didn't care anymore. The moment she locked me out of my own bedroom, she locked herself out of my life. And now I was going to make damn sure she felt every ounce of that betrayal. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Jessica stood there, pale and shaking, eyes darting between my face and the phone in my hand. The reality of what I had evidence was sinking in. She tried to play it off, swallowing thickly and forcing a breathless little laugh. Okay, let's just... She reached for my arm. I stepped back. No, my voice was sharp, final. You don't get to touch me. Her expression flickered, first shock, then something uglier. Something resentful. But before she could start spinning more lies, I turned on my heel and walked away. Straight to the bedroom. Our bedroom. The place she had just desecrated. Where are you going? She called after me. I didn't answer. Just shoved open the closet doors and started pulling out her clothes. Dumping them. On the floor. On the bed. In a pile of expensive dresses and shoes and bags she swore she saved up for. Jessica stormed in behind me. What the hell are you doing? I didn't even look at her. Packing your crap. You're overreacting. I laughed. A real, full-body, humorless laugh. I walked in on you with another man, and you think I'm overreacting? She grabbed my wrist, trying to stop me, but I yanked free so fast she stumbled back. I'm not leaving, she shrieked. I turned, eyes locking onto hers. You sure as hell aren't staying. Then her mask slipped. The guilt, the fake tears, the weak little tremble in her voice, gone. She straightened, chin high, arms crossed, defensive, arrogant, like she was the victim here. You're not throwing me out, she hissed. This is my house too. I exhaled sharply through my nose, controlling the fire rising in my chest. She really thought she still had power here. Jessica, my voice was low even. You lost every right to this house the moment you let him in. Her nostrils flared. Her arms dropped. And then she smirked. The kind of smirk that made my blood go cold. You won't actually do it, she said, her voice sickly sweet. You're mad now, but you won't throw me out. You can't. I raised an eyebrow. And why's that? She sauntered closer, like she had any control left. Because we have kids. Because if this gets ugly, who do you think they'll believe? And there it was. The real Jessica. The one behind the sweet wife act. The one who always knew where to cut to make the deepest wounds. She thought she had me trapped. She had no idea what was coming. I smiled, and it must have scared her because she faltered, her confidence cracking just slightly. You think you're smart, I said softly. But you're not. You're reckless. She frowned. What? You got sloppy. I held up my phone again. And now? Now I have proof. Her breath hitched. I let that hang in the air before stepping past her, heading to my office. The moment she realized what I was doing, she scrambled after me. No, wait. But it was too late. I pulled up my laptop, opened my email, and sent the video straight to my lawyer. Jessica let out a choked noise. You're being insane. I turned the screen toward her. Let her watch the email send. Then, Looking her dead in the eyes, I said, I executed the ultimate revenge after my cheating wife became obsessed with her affair partner. Her face drained of blood, because she knew she wasn't walking away from this untouched. Jessica just stood there, staring at the screen like she could somehow stop the email from existing through sheer willpower. Her breathing was shallow, her fingers twitching like she wanted to snatch my laptop away, but knew she had no right to touch it. You wouldn't actually, she started, voice weak. I shut the laptop with a calm click. I already did. And then the meltdown began. Jessica's face twisted. Her hands balled into fists. She stomped forward, radiating the kind of rage only a truly desperate person can feel. Why are you doing this? She screeched. I laughed. Actually laughed. You mean why am I not rolling over like a good little husband? Her jaw clenched. You're making this worse than it has to be. I stood up, towering over her. Worse. My voice dropped. Cold. Sharp. Unforgiving. Jessica, I caught you sneaking a man out of our bedroom. Our bedroom. And you think I'm the one making this worse? She flinched. Good. Let her feel an ounce of what she'd put me through. But then, just like that, she switched tactics. Her whole face changed. The rage melted away, replaced by wide, tearful eyes. Her voice softened, wavered, turned small and pitiful. I messed up, she whispered, reaching for my arm. But I love you. We can fix this. If I hadn't just seen her true face 5 seconds ago, maybe that would have worked. But now I knew exactly who she was. I stepped back. Her hand grasped at empty air. No, Jessica. My voice was steady. You don't get to cheat, lie, manipulate, and then play the victim. Her lips trembled. Fake. All of it. And then the final switch. She exhaled hard, all pretense gone. The sad wife act evaporated, leaving behind something ugly and sharp. Fine, she snapped, eyes burning. You want to be a petty little? She cut herself off, inhaled sharply, then glared. You think you're hurting me? You're just making this harder for yourself. Cocked my head. That's so? You're going to lose everything. She crossed her arms, confidence creeping back into her tone. The house, the kids. I held up my phone again. I have evidence. Jessica faltered. Just a tiny crack, but I saw it. I already sent it to my lawyer, I continued. And if you try to fight me on this, I'll make sure everyone sees it. Your friends, your parents, hell, even your boss. Jessica's nostrils flared. You wouldn't. I shrugged. Try me. For the first time since this whole thing started. She looked trapped, because the truth was, Jessica had spent years getting away with everything. She'd always known exactly how to twist a situation in her favor, how to make herself the victim, how to flip a story so that she came out looking like the wounded party. But now I had her pinned, and she knew it. She licked her lips, mind racing for an escape route. Then, in a last-ditch effort, she scoffed and rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. It wasn't even serious. My whole body went still. Not serious. Not serious. I closed the distance between us in one slow step. Jessica swallowed, suddenly realizing she'd really miscalculated. I leaned in, my voice barely above a whisper. Then tell me, Jessica. I tilted my head. Why did you look so scared when I caught you? She said nothing, because she had nothing. And now it was my turn to start pulling the strings. Jessica just stood there, her breath shallow, hands twitching at her sides like she wanted to slap me, scream at me, or maybe just disappear into thin air. But I wasn't letting her run this time. Not from me. Not from this. She swallowed hard. What do you want? I let the words hang in the air between us, savoring how unfamiliar they sounded coming from her. The woman who had spent years making me bend, making me apologize, making me feel like I was always one wrong move away from being the bad guy. Now, she was the one scrambling, and I was going to make her regret every second of it. I stepped past her, grabbed a suitcase from the hall closet, and tossed it onto the bed with a thud. Pack your stuff. Jessica scoffed, but there was panic creeping into her eyes. You're insane if you think I'm leaving. I smirked. She still thought she had control. You've got 10 minutes. I checked my watch. After that, I'm calling the cops and telling them I found an intruder in my house. Her lips parted, stunned. You wouldn't. Are you willing to find out? Jessica stared at me, mind racing, calculating. Then she made a fatal mistake. She laughed. A cruel, mocking sound. You think you've won? She shook her head. This is nothing. You're not getting rid of me that easily. I arched an eyebrow. That so? She took a step forward, lowering her voice like we were in some kind of standoff. You can throw me out, you can call your lawyer, but let's not forget one little detail. I let her have her moment. Let her think she was about to drop a bomb. I'm the mother of your children. Her voice dripped with self-satisfaction. And if you try to take them from me, I'll make sure the court sees you as the bad guy. There it was. The real Jessica. No fake tears. No regret. Just cold, calculated cruelty. She really thought this was a game she could still win. I exhaled slowly, nodding like I was considering her words. Then, with a small smirk, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and tapped the screen. Jessica frowned. What are you? I turned the volume up, and her own voice filled the room. You're not throwing me out. This is my house too. You're making this worse than it has to be. You think you're hurting me? You're just making this harder for yourself. You're going to lose everything. The house, the kids, her mouth snapped shut, because she finally understood. I had recorded everything. Every lie, every threat, every little piece of manipulation. And now it was evidence. Jessica's face drained of color. You recorded me? I slid my phone back into my pocket. You really should be more careful about what you say when you're trying to screw someone over. Her hands were shaking now. She looked away, swallowing hard. You wouldn't use that against me. I tilted my head. You sure? Jessica sucked in a breath. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure out how to spin this in her favor. But for the first time ever, she had no move to make. Because I had checkmate. She blinked rapidly, her breathing uneven. Then, she did something I didn't expect. She grabbed the suitcase and started throwing her clothes inside. Not folding. Not organizing. Just shoving. She didn't speak. Didn't argue. Didn't try to charm or manipulate. She knew. She had lost. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching the woman who once controlled everything scramble to pack like a tenant being evicted with no notice. I should have felt relief, satisfaction. Instead, all I felt was cold, because this wasn't over yet. Not even close. Jessica stuffed clothes into the suitcase with frantic, jerky movements, her breathing shallow and erratic. The woman who once strutted through this house like a queen now looked like a cornered animal, desperate, grasping. I didn't rush her. I just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching her world crumble. You know, I said casually, I used to wonder how far you'd go to cover your tracks. She froze mid-movement. I took a slow step forward. Now I know. She swallowed. I didn't. You didn't what? I tilted my head. Didn't think you'd get caught? Didn't care if you did. Her lip trembled, but I wasn't falling for that act anymore. She zipped up the suitcase, fingers trembling. This is insane. Her voice cracked. You're actually throwing me out. I let out a humorless chuckle. Jessica, you threw yourself out the second you locked me out of my own damn bedroom. Her head snapped up. For a brief second, she looked furious. But she couldn't deny it. I grabbed her suitcase off the bed and marched toward the front door. She followed, steps hesitant, like she still didn't believe this was happening. Then, her final desperate attempt. Wait. Her voice softened, careful now. We can fix this. I didn't stop walking. She grabbed my arm, pulling me to a halt. I mean it. I messed up, okay? Her eyes shined with unshed tears, voice shaking in all the right places. I don't want to throw away our life. I love you. I turned my head, looking at her fully. And then, slowly, I smiled. Jessica. I leaned in just slightly, lowering my voice. You don't love me. She flinched. I watched the mask crack, the panic settle in. Then, just to twist the knife, I added, but I think you love him. Her whole body stiffened. Bullseye. The truth was, I didn't know if she loved that idiot. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it was just a fling, something reckless and meaningless. But that didn't matter. What mattered was her reaction. Her fingers clenched. Her breath hitched. Her whole body betrayed her. And I just smiled. "You should go find him," I murmured. "See if he's as excited to have you as you are to run to him." Jessica's face twisted into something ugly. Shame, rage, regret, all fighting for dominance. But I was already at the door. I threw it open, stepped aside, and gestured grandly toward the outside world. Her final escape. Jessica lingered. For a second, I thought she might actually beg. But then pride won. She lifted her chin, sucked in a breath, and snatched the suitcase handle. And without another word, she walked out. I didn't watch her leave. I just shut the door. Firm. Final. Then I locked it. For the first time in 12 years, I felt free. But this wasn't over yet. Because Jessica? She wasn't the type to lose quietly. The silence in the house was deafening. For the first time in years, there was no Jessica. No passive-aggressive sighs. No dramatic slamming of cabinets when she was too exhausted to speak. No sound of her high heels clicking across the floor like a metronome of control. Just peace. I should have felt relieved. Hell, I should have cracked open a beer, put my feet up, and let the weight of her absence settle over me like a warm blanket. But I knew better. Jessica wasn't gone. Not really. Because Jessica wasn't the kind of woman to lose quietly. She wasn't built for it. So I waited. And right on schedule, she called. The phone buzzed angrily against the table, her name flashing across the screen like a warning sign. I stared at it. Let it ring. 3 times. Then silence. Not even a minute later, it rang again. This time, I answered. I didn't say anything. Just held the phone to my ear, listening. First, nothing. Just shaky breathing. Then her voice. Low. Controlled. Dangerous. "You think this is over?" I exhaled through my nose. "Jessica, it's done." A sharp, bitter laugh. "You think you can just erase me? Just like that?" I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "You erased yourself, Jess." Silence. Then the switch flipped. No, see, you don't get to play the victim. You're not innocent here." Her voice sharpened. Angry. Desperate. "You've been cold for months. You shut me out." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. There it was. The classic Jessica rewrite. She wasn't the villain, I was. I exhaled slowly. "So let me get this straight. You were unhappy. So instead of, I don't know, talking to me, you decided to screw some guy in our bedroom." Jessica didn't answer. I smirked. "Yeah, that's what I thought." More silence. Then she dropped the bomb. "I'll fight for full custody." I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. She continued, her voice saccharine, rehearsed. "I'll tell the court you threw me out, humiliated me, that you're dangerous, that the kids aren't safe with you." My jaw clenched. This woman. I should have been furious. Should have shouted, cursed, threatened her right back. But instead, I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Jessica went quiet. "That's funny," I said, shaking my head. "Because you know what I did today? Right after you walked out?" She didn't answer, but I could feel the tension through the phone. I continued. "I sent the videos to my lawyer." Jessica sucked in a breath. "You know, the ones where you admit to cheating? The ones where you threaten to take the house? The ones where you tell me you'll ruin me if I don't shut up and take it?" Silence. I leaned forward, my voice dropping. Sharp. Unforgiving. "Jessica, do you really want to play this game with me?" More silence. Then the smallest, weakest sound. A breath. A tremble. The first sign of real fear. "Don't do this," she whispered. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered. I remembered the locked door. The second shadow in my bedroom. The way she smirked when she thought she had me trapped. And just like that, the pity died. I smirked. I already did. Jessica exhaled shakily. But there was nothing left for her to say. I gave her a second to sit in it. To realize, fully and completely, that she had lost. Then, with complete and utter satisfaction, I hung up. Checkmate. Hanging up on Jessica should have been the end of it. But Jessica? She was like a cockroach. Impossible to kill, thriving in filth, and always crawling back when you least expected it. So I wasn't surprised when, less than 24 hours later, she showed up. 1:12 a.m. A loud bang on the front door yanked me out of sleep. I sat up instantly, my body running on pure instinct. The house was dark, silent, except for the pounding. Then her voice. Open the door. I sighed, ran a hand over my face, and got up. I knew it would come to this. I took my time walking to the door, unlocking it with deliberate slowness. Then, finally, I swung it open. And there she was. Jessica stood in the porch light, her hair a mess, mascara smudged under her eyes. She wasn't drunk. No, this was something worse. She was spiraling. I leaned against the doorframe. You really want to do this now? Her eyes flashed. You think you can just throw me away? I exhaled slowly. Go home, Jessica. This is my home. She shoved past me, stepping inside. Could have stopped her. Should have. But honestly, I wanted to see where this was going. She spun to face me. You think you can just move on? Just like that? I shrugged. Seems that way. Her lip curled. And then she went for the kill. You were never enough, you know that? She spat, her voice dripping with venom. That's why I did it. That's why I found someone else. Because you weren't enough. She wanted a reaction. She wanted to see me break, to scream, to hurt. Instead, I smiled. A slow, amused, pitying smile. Jessica blinked, caught off guard. What? I cut her off. Then why are you here? She froze. I stepped closer. Not touching her, not threatening, just watching. If I was never enough, if I was so terrible, if Ethan is the love of your life. I tilted my head. Why are you standing here in the middle of the night, begging for my attention? Jessica's jaw clenched. I had her. She had come here thinking she was still in control, that she could spin the story, twist the knife, make herself the victim. But the truth? She was the one who lost everything. I let that sink in, let her feel it. Then, finally, I stepped back and gestured toward the door. You can leave the same way you came in. She hesitated, just for a second. Then, with a sharp inhale, she bolted. No parting words, no final jab, just the sound of the door slamming behind her. And this time, she wasn't coming back. The moment Jessica slammed the door, I stood there, waiting for her to come back, waiting for another round of screaming, manipulation, crocodile tears, waiting for her to do what she always did. But she didn't. I watched through the window as she stomped to her car, yanked the door open, and sat there. Just sat there, not starting the engine, not moving, just gripping the steering wheel, her head bowed, shoulders shaking. And for the first time, I realized something. Jessica wasn't just furious. She wasn't just panicking. She was scared. Not of me, not of losing the house, not even of the divorce. She was scared because she had no one left to control. No safety net, no backup plan, no husband to gaslight into submission. She had bet everything on a fantasy, on the idea that I would always be there, that I would never leave, that she could do whatever she wanted and I'd still be the fool standing by her side. But now I was gone. And Ethan was never going to catch her. Because the funny thing about affair partners, they love the chase, the thrill, the stolen moments, the risk. But when the fantasy becomes reality, when the woman they snuck around with is suddenly crying on their doorstep, talking about lawyers and custody and needing a place to stay, they run, just like she ran from me. And I knew, I knew, that Jessica had already realized it. She had thrown away her life, her family, her home, for nothing. She was homeless, loveless, alone. And as I watched her sit in that car, crumbling under the weight of what she had done, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything at all. I just turned off the porch light, and I walked away, because Jessica's story ended here. Mine was just beginning.